Hello and welcome to the F1 News Zone, the show where we take you through the biggest stories in Formula 1 right now. We're currently in the Las Vegas Grand Prix weekend, but which stories have caught our attention this week? This week we take a look at why the residents of Las Vegas aren't in favour of the Grand Prix there, why Lando Norris might be being too open about his feelings, and why Max Verstappen has hinted he may leave Formula 1 after 2026. All that and a whole lot more is in today's show. Let's dive in. So, local business owners in Las Vegas have been slamming Formula 1 ahead of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Now, we heard back in 2023 that a lot of the local business owners, a lot of the local residents were not a fan of this race. Basically, I think because they weren't really consulted on it, it's just something that is kind of happening. Dr. Helmut Marko has admitted that he is not really a big fan of this race either. There's a few people in the media who have been been saying, yeah, we don't really like this so much. It's not the best. But let's have a look at what these business owners are saying here. Full article on the F1Chronicle.com. As the second F1 promoted Las Vegas Grand Prix looms, two local business owners have blasted the event, the sport, and its authorities. Red Bull team advisor Dr. Helmut Marko this week also affirmed that he's not a fan, denouncing the race as not that great and telling Österreich newspaper that it does not have much support from the local population. It also seems to lack the full support of the state of Nevada, with multiple reports emerging that F1 personnel struggled to be permitted entry. They didn't want to let me in, said RB driver Yuki Tsunoda. They kept me for 2 or 3 hours and almost sent me home. Although my passport shows that I am constantly moving from country to country and I have a valid visa, and not long ago I competed on another American track in Austin. Yeah, the American immigration authorities, from my very limited experience with them, are they're not the easiest to deal with. I will say that. I won't say any more just in case I go back. I don't want to go insulting you guys at all. But yeah, people who've travelled to the States will know. They'll know. Wade Bond, who owns a Coca-Cola painted gas station in Las Vegas, said that when he heard the city was going to join the Formula 1 calendar last year, he was delighted. But the disruption to the city ultimately culminated in a shocking 65% revenue drop for the month of November. 65. Wow, so it's not just the day itself, the weekend itself, it's also the whole lead up. I mean, I imagine it's a bit like Singapore, where they're kind of preparing for the race months in advance and there are disruptions for like weeks beforehand. He told Le Journal de Montreal that in November 2022 he turned over $682,000. Now I won't even reach 200k, he revealed. It makes me sick, Bond added. If this race is still here in a year for the contract, I'm done. I've already laid off 50% of my employees. Wow. The destruction caused for a 90-minute race that we host once a year is inexplicable. There we go. I don't understand the concept. This is our city. Restaurant owner Randy Markin, meanwhile, is actually suing Formula 1 for the financial losses caused by the disruption to the event for his business. No event has ever destroyed my city like F1, said the owner of the Italian diner Battista's Hole in the Wall. He says that when Formula 1 is in town, he has a 50% fewer bookings. It's horrible, he said. We're supposed to be full. People calling to cancel the reservations because they can't make it because of the traffic closures. It should, in theory, help out, but yeah, that's the point. The traffic disruption for customers, they'll just not want to go in the city centre. Different scenario, but my hometown of Sheffield, we reinstalled trams back in the early 90s, and because of that it actually almost destroyed the town centre, because while they were doing that, all the local business owners could barely get any traffic in, they could barely get any customers in, just because people didn't want to drive to the centre. Because of that, we got a massive out of town shopping centre called Meadowhall. But this is worse in a way, because it's like, well, this is just going to keep going forever. Probably it's going to go for at least another 2 years according to the contract. We are the busiest restaurant off the strip, said Markin, adding that some other nearby restaurants actually closed for the entire race week. Referring to F1 officials, he blasted, "These people don't give a damn. This is the first time a company has come to Vegas and it hasn't become part of the fabric of the city. And God knows how many companies have come here. No city in the world does it the way we do with big events. But why do citizens hate this race so much? It's because F1 walks around with its nose in the air, not caring about anything and destroying everything around it. They come in on a private jet, do the business and fly back. It doesn't work like that around here." F1 apologised though for 2023's event disruption and vowed to do better for 24, but Markin says nothing has changed. "If F1 really cared about Vegas, we wouldn't have a fight in court. It's impossible impossible to sit down with these people and talk because they don't care, they have no loyalty. And their way of thinking they're bigger and stronger with their money doesn't work anymore, especially not in this single market. So yeah, strong words from the local business owners. I can totally get why they are so annoyed. I completely understand. Unfortunately, money talks, and if anywhere knows that more than anywhere else, it's going to be the United States, and particularly somewhere Las Vegas. And this race is going to keep going on for some time. It might not get renewed after 2026. They might not have any more Las Vegas Grand Prix after that. They might choose to go and have another showpiece event in Chicago or something like that that's being rumoured. But yeah, for me, I mean, the Vegas Grand Prix, it's not the best one. It really isn't. I think that's the kindest way to put it. And the disruption that it clearly caused the local residents is really, really huge. I mean, you do get some races that are just, where the track's in the middle of nowhere. Silverstone and Spa are two examples of that. But these city tracks, they do really disrupt the local businesses. And if they're not done properly, then they can really, really do damage like that. I mean, again, it's different. It's a different, it's a different place at the end of the day. But Singapore, I've never heard anything like this about Singapore. Maybe they do just something different to limit the disruption. Same with Baku as well. I know those governments over there are a lot more authoritarian. They can just do things basically with relative impunity, and the people just kind of have to shut up and accept it, unfortunately. But I still don't hear any stories about that. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Maybe it actually does help them. Maybe they get more business in because of it when the F1's on. But clearly in Las Vegas, the local residents are hating it, and you can totally get why. Their viewpoint is totally legitimate, and Formula One clearly has to do more. They said they'd do more for this year, but according to those guys in the article, nothing has changed. But what do you guys think? Should Formula One continue to race in Las Vegas? Should it do more to help the local residents during the month of November when this event is on? Because it's not just about the weekend when it's on, it's about the whole month, apparently, according to these guys. It's like for weeks beforehand and probably some time after as well while they're clearing it all up. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. So I've seen this quote kind of doing the rounds this last day or so about Lewis Hamilton in his interview leading up to the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and kind of reflecting on what he said on the radio in Brazil. And a lot of people theorizing that, he might quit Mercedes. And I tell you what, he's admitted it. He's thought about it. He at least thought about it after Brazil. But I tell you what, it shows how quickly things can turn around. Look at what they've done in practice on Thursday night in Las Vegas. Mercedes looked to have the fastest car this weekend out of absolutely nowhere. When Lewis himself said, we're going to struggle this weekend. We always struggle with tyre temperatures, and it's very cold here by F1 standards anyway. But let's have a look at what he said here, because it was not a good one in Brazil for him at all. Lewis Hamilton admits that he really did think about quitting Mercedes immediately on the slowdown lap after the recent Brazilian Grand Prix. Fans were alarmed when they heard the Ferrari-bound in 2025 driver tell his team on the radio, "If this is the last time that I get to perform, it's a shame it wasn't great, but grateful for you." After the 39-year-old said could happily go and take a holiday. Mercedes immediately rejected reports that the 7-time world champion was serious about his comments, but Hamilton admitted in Las Vegas on Wednesday, "In the moment, that's how I felt, like I didn't really want to come back after that weekend." While teammate George Russell has also struggled at times with Mercedes' 2024 car, Hamilton's problems have been more severe. "If they provide a car that wants to stay on track, hopefully we'll have a better result here," he said. They look like they're going to have a better result here, I will be honest. Early days, it's only practice, but looking very good. There are also signs of tension between Hamilton and Toto Wolff, particularly after the Mercedes team boss referred to the British driver as shelf life in a recently released book. Hamilton insists the comments didn't affect him. "No, I think just being here, standing tall, I'm feeling strong," he said. "I've been around this game for a long time. There's been so many things said about me, so many microaggressions. I'm not saying from my boss because he's been supportive over all these years, and we've achieved a lot together, I mean in general. But nothing can take me down, so I'm still here, I'm still fighting." Wolff said on Thursday that he and Hamilton have cleared the air. "One rule that we established very early on in our relationship is that we talk immediately and say, 'Why did you say that?' or 'What did you mean?' And that is what we have done," said the Austrian. As for whether Ferrari boss Vasseur has reason to be concerned on Hamilton's current form carrying over potentially into 2025, the winner of a record 105 Grand Prix insisted he is pretty sure he will never have another season like 2024. Yeah, I mean, I've got my theory on this at the end of the day, guys. I mean, I said at the time that it was very, very unlikely that Hamilton was going to leave Mercedes early because, you know, the team owe it to him. He owes it to the team. They've been together for so long. You know, this is 12 seasons in Formula One. They've won everything under the sun. They're the most successful partnership in the history of Formula One. Nobody has raced for more races for one team, nor won as many Grand Prix, nor won as many championships. Yeah, because he won 6 of them, didn't he? He won 6 of them Mercedes, and that's more than Michael Schumacher's 5 with Ferrari. So they have to keep it going just for these last 3 races. But you know, he's an emotional person, Hamilton, and that is not a criticism at all. If anything, it's a compliment, I would say. You know, he wears his heart on his sleeve, as we say here in the UK, and that's fantastic. And I think it's great that he does that. Unfortunately, it does mean that sometimes he's prone to these kind of outbursts on the radio, and that's just how he felt at the time. Obviously, he sat down, he's had a couple of weeks to reflect and relax and kind of recharge his batteries, and he's thought, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that, but that's how I felt. And yeah, it's fair enough, really. In terms of his car performance, I mean, I do see the Hamilton haters in my comments quite a bit, saying things like, oh, he's washed, he's done, you know, he's proven now that it was all the car, none of it was him, which is just a lot of crap, really, to put it politely. But at the end of the day, I feel like the reason why he's been underperforming compared to Russell relatively, because you would expect Hamilton to comfortably beat Russell in most weekends. I don't think there's any doubt about that, really. But I think the reason why Russell in general has been doing better than Hamilton right now is because I feel like that car is probably more designed and more orientated towards George Russell. And that is not me saying that Russell has it easy or whatever, but because Mercedes are losing Hamilton after this season, they're obviously going to develop the car with George Russell in mind, because next year's car will just be an evolution of this year's car. So it makes sense for them to throw all their weight and their kind of planning and on, you know, research and development and the upgrades for the car and the updates, all to be orientated around George Russell's driving style. It just makes perfect sense. It makes, if you were to do it all behind Hamilton, then what's the point? He's leaving anyway after this season. That's an incredibly short-sighted and poor decision, in my opinion. So I feel like that's part of it too. And maybe it's just a bit of burnout from Hamilton's side as well. Maybe he's tired. It's a very long season, you know, and the fact that he's leaving Mercedes, that's probably going to be playing on his mind too. What are your guys' thoughts? Is Hamilton underperforming? Will he continue this form to Ferrari next year, or will that give him the boost he needs to get back to winning ways? I mean, let's not forget, guys, he's won 2 races this season. It's not like the guy's not done anything this season. It's just a bad run, really, in the last few races or so. That's more what it is, really. But yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments below, as always, guys. Interesting comment here by Zach Brown on his driver at McLaren, Lando Norris, saying that he should consider if he's too open. I think I might know what this is referring to. I don't think he's referring to the racing line that he's driving around tracks, but let's have a look at what's going on here, guys. Full article on the F1chronicle.com, as always. Zach Brown thinks that Lando Norris should think about whether he is too open about his emotions. Automotor und Sport journalist Michael Schmidt asked the McLaren CEO about the perception that while Max Verstappen solves problems, Norris talks about them. Norris and Verstappen, although friends off track, although maybe not nowadays according to some reports, but they were definitely before, have contested an increasingly tense battle for the Drivers' World Championship in 2024, which the Red Bull drivers appears poised to win. When asked about Norris's openness with the media, including regularly chastising himself and opening up about his mental health, Brown answered, "The world has changed, more transparent. Today, admitting weaknesses is a strength. We all have them, but maybe Lando is too open sometimes and he would be better off holding back on certain things. But I don't think that translates into a weakness on the racetrack." According to former F1 driver Ralf Schumacher, Norris was simply outclassed this season. Max is a driver like Ayrton Senna or Michael Schumacher. Ralf, the 7-time world champion Michael's younger brother, told F1Insider.com, "They could even win when the car wasn't the best. Others have to have a perfect car to be at the top of the podium." Very true. Brown, though, insists that Norris drove brilliantly at times this year, and the only thing that he could have done differently in Austin would have been to drive into Max's car. He could have done that. Would have been a bad idea, though. But that's not our style, and not Lando's either. Are you hinting at that being Max's style? Interesting comments. Many pundits and experts think that while Norris made mistakes in 2024 due to his inexperience in fighting for an F1 title, the same is true of McLaren in the post-Ron Dennis era. Very true again. Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes make mistakes too, Brown insists, but everyone forgets about that because they won so much in between. We could have won Silverstone and maybe Montreal and Monza too, but we learned from our mistakes and today we are a better team than when we were at the start of the season. Again, true. While the driver's title appears extremely unlikely for Norris, McLaren is still ahead in the Constructors' Championship with 3 races to go. Max is still ahead in the drivers, that's why I nearly said that there. Would McLaren's 2024 campaign be a total failure if it missed out on both titles? I don't see it that way, Brown said. We didn't have the car we have now until Miami. We lost a lot of points to Max and Red Bull. Of course I want to win at least one of the 2 titles, but Constructors' title will be tough too. Ferrari look very strong. They're giving me more headaches than Red Bull. True, they are second in the Constructors. Things are not looking good in the Drivers' Championship, the American admitted. If we lose it, it will have happened at the beginning and not at Silverstone at Monza. And also not because we swapped places between Lando and Norris in Hungary. So yeah, interesting comments there. I see what he's saying. The majority of basically there is that big gap in the championship, and it's been that big gap in the championship in the drivers ever since the start of the season pretty much, because Max Verstappen pulled out that gap. If you take off the first 5 or 6 rounds of the season, then it is quite even between Max, Lando, and even Charles Leclerc as well. You know, he's not too far away in the championship either in that sense. He would definitely be in the battle if those rounds didn't happen, but they did. And the reason why Red Bull dropped off in terms of pace, we've documented it quite well on here. I mean, the things like the asymmetric brakes being banned, I think that's a massive reason. And yeah, I mean, you know, McLaren have made mistakes. They definitely have. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. You could argue about what is the bigger mistake or the bigger reason. You could argue that McLaren making some mistakes through this season is the bigger reason. You could argue that the points gap at the start was the bigger reason. It's a bit of both, really. Both have cost points. I would say that their pace or lack thereof at the start of the season compared to Red Bull is the biggest reason why. If you get rid of that, then Lando Norris is, 10-20 points behind? He's got a chance at least to take it to Abu Dhabi. But as it is, it's probably going to be over after Las Vegas. And if it's not over after Las Vegas, it's definitely going to be over after Qatar. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, interesting comments there. I feel like the team will grow from it. They will gain experience from it. They've not been in a championship battle of any kind since 2012. And even then, it was relatively speculative. I mean, Alonso and Vettel were miles ahead in the drivers. The Constructors was closer, but they still finished 3rd. I would say the last time they were in a proper out-and-out championship battle was probably 2010. And the last time they won a championship was 2008, when Sir Lewis got his first Drivers' Championship. In very famous circumstances. I'm not going to quote it because, you know, Mr. Timo Glock does come up a lot these days with these articles, so I'll save it for one of those. So I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, but that's not Glock. He wasn't in this video, although I've mentioned him now, so he kind of is. But yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Have McLaren bottled it? Have they made mistakes that have cost them the World Championship? Are they going to win the Constructors' Championship? I think they probably will, but I'm a McLaren fan, so I would say that. A bit of British bias, some would say. Bit of McLaren bias, but we'll see what happens. It's not over by any means. Ferrari aren't out of it, Red Bull aren't out of it. It's going to be a really, really good fight. I'm looking forward to seeing, rather than the conclusion of the Drivers' Championship, because it's pretty much over at this point. The Constructors' battle, though, that's where the real money is. They'll see what happens with that, and each team has 2 drivers to play with, or maybe 1 in Red Bull's case. But anyway, let us know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. So I brought you a story the other day going over Max Verstappen and how he's kind of running out of patience with Formula 1. There's a few factors at play here, one of them being that in his own words he's already achieved his own goals that he set out for himself in Formula 1. The fact that he wants to go and experience other motorsport series, maybe he wants to go into the World Endurance Championship, compete in Le Mans, maybe he wants to go to IndyCar. I don't know, he wasn't very specific about his goals. And also on top of that, there's certain controversies in F1 right now as well, things like Sweargate and stuff like that, which honestly is just the biggest load of rubbish I've ever seen. I don't blame Max Verstappen for being annoyed at what Mohammed bin Sulayem is trying to bring in Formula 1. It's a load of crap, to put it mildly. I don't swear on here, guys. I keep it PG, but I think you know what I would probably say if I wasn't. Anyway, apparently he's now hinted that he could quit Formula 1 after the 2026 season, which is before his Red Bull contract ends. However, there are certain clauses in there that would potentially, if rumours are to be believed, allow him to leave. So let's have a look at what's been said here, guys. Full article on the F1chronicle.com as always. Max Verstappen has hinted that his next motor racing adventure after F1 could be closer than many think. For a Honda promotional event, Yuki Tsunoda took the wheel of an Indy car at Las Vegas Speedway, while triple world champion Verstappen tried a Daytona-ready Acura ARX-06 prototype. Verstappen openly admitted to wanting to do Daytona, which is a NASCAR race for you guys that don't know. It's not about teasing or whatever, said the Dutchman. I know I want to do it in the future, it's just finding the time. The 27-year-old said it is really only the current F1 calendar that is holding him back. With such a busy F1 schedule, it's almost impossible because we finished so late in the season, said Verstappen. To properly prepare you before heading to the Daytona, it's impossible. But who knows, maybe in a few years' time. Verstappen also said he's keen to do the fabled Le Mans 24-hour race while he's still youngish. At the moment, I have a contract, he said, referring to his Red Bull deal through to 2028, which contains exit clauses, reportedly. I'll be 31 at the end of it, which of course is still very young to retire, but I started when I was 17. That's a long time in F1. That'd be 15 seasons at that point, so it would be. Verstappen hinted that he might not even get to 2028, given the fact that the all-new cars with a greater electrical power component will debut in 26. Yeah, for me, it also depends on how the new cars will do from 26 onwards, he said. Are they enjoyable to drive? The amount of races, how much you're away from home, it's demanding, and of course, I've already won a lot in Formula 1. I also want to do some other stuff at some point, and I also want to do fewer races. With an endurance championship, you have more free time and you can plan your schedule a bit more. Yeah, maybe he wants to do some more esports racing or something as well with Redline. I mean, you don't know. That seems like he's got a real passion for it. And I can't say I've ever really watched his streams or whatever that he does with those, but I mean, he's going to be good at it, isn't he? Let's be real here, guys. He's got to be good at it. If he wasn't, he wouldn't do it. But he's going to be good at it for sure. So, yeah, I mean, that's all fair enough in the end of the day. I mean, people have been talking about drivers like Sir Lewis Hamilton going away from Formula 1 to pursue other interests. He's never done it. He just pursued his other interests while he's in F1. You know, clearly he finds the time for it. Max Verstappen clearly doesn't find the time to go for his other passions, because his particular passions aren't things like fashion and music and films and stuff like Hamilton. Verstappen's passion just seems to be racing. He absolutely loves to race anything by the sounds of things, and I'd love to see him in NASCAR. Can you imagine that? Max Verstappen in NASCAR, that'd be incredible. A great branding exercise as well for Red Bull, who used to be involved in NASCAR back in the day with Scott Speed, who also raced in Formula 1. I don't think they've really got much of a presence in NASCAR at the moment, so that'd be a great exercise for them to do that. Maybe Danny Rick will do it one day with Red Bull support, or without, given how it all ended there, you never know. But yeah, I think he'd be great at whatever he does. He wouldn't be the first Formula 1 world champion even to go and race in NASCAR, you know. Kimi Räikkönen has made a few appearances over the years in that series. I think he did last year in 2023, did he not? A one-off appearance at Watkins Glen, I want to say. Something like that. And of course, great drivers in F1 over the years, such as Juan Pablo Montoya, competed full-time in NASCAR for years after they left F1. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do you think Verstappen will leave early from his contract? Do you think he'll leave after 2026? Do you think he'll see it out? Do you think he'd leave then? And where do you think he'd go? Many questions there for you to answer, all in the comments, I hope. But yeah, for much more F1 news and speculation just like this, do keep it tuned here to the F1chronicle.com. Alright, so the Las Vegas Grand Prix is on this weekend, guys. The third to last round of the 2024 Formula 1 World Championship, and the round where Max Verstappen can clinch his fourth consecutive F1 Drivers' World title in a row. Now, this seemed like a bit of something that might not have really happened not too long ago, but Max Verstappen's incredible drive in Brazil in the previous round has really made this a possibility. It was always likely that Verstappen was going to win the championship. It was always an outside shot for Lando Norris to be able to overturn that deficit, but it's looking likely now that Verstappen will win the title in Las Vegas, but it is not a certainty. So let's have a look at the different permutations. Let's have a look at how Max Verstappen can win the Formula 1 World Championship at Las Vegas. So currently, as things stand, there are 86 points to play for in the remainder of the Formula 1 World Championship. So anybody that is within 86 points of Max Verstappen is in with a mathematical chance of winning the World Championship. Now, surprisingly, this actually includes Charles Leclerc, who is exactly 86 points behind Max Verstappen. However, he cannot win the championship, not just because it's incredibly unrealistically, but even if Max Verstappen DNFs from all the races and the sprint in Qatar, And even if Charles Leclerc wins every race, wins the sprint race, and also picks up the fastest lap points at each race, he will still not be ahead of Max Verstappen. They will be tied on points, but Max Verstappen will be ahead because of the countback rule. The countback rule is basically what is used to split drivers who are on the same amount of points. It basically goes on the highest finish you achieve through the season. So for both Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, that is first place. But Max Verstappen has far more wins than Charles Leclerc. In fact, Max Verstappen, I believe, has 7 victories so far this season. Not 8 actually in total because of Brazil. Yeah, 8 victories. Charles Leclerc, meanwhile, has 3 victories. So even if Charles Leclerc wins every race, he will still be on 6 wins, which is less than Max Verstappen's 8 in that scenario. So even if that was to happen, Charles Leclerc will not overtake him. So Charles Leclerc is out of the championship battle mathematically. Lando Norris is still in this battle mathematically, though. At the moment, he is 62 points behind Max Verstappen. He is on 331 points, while Max Verstappen is on 393. So basically, after this round, it's 25 points for a win in both Abu Dhabi and Qatar. So that is 50 points, plus the 2 points for fastest laps in both of those, plus the sprint victory as well. That is the maximum that Lando Norris can achieve, and that totals to 60 points. So Lando Norris needs to finish ahead of Max Verstappen, and he needs to finish ahead of him by enough points to overturn a little bit more of that deficit. In fact, Norris effectively would have to gain at least 3 points on Max Verstappen. So, for example, even if Norris finishes ahead of Max Verstappen, depending on where those placings are, it might not be enough. Now, if Lando Norris wins in Las Vegas and Max Verstappen is second, then the championship battle will go to Qatar. Again, it's not, Norris is not going to win the championship. It's just not going to happen. So, effectively, what Max Verstappen needs to do, if he finishes ahead of Lando Norris, no matter what, he will be champion in Las Vegas. He will be crowned around Las Vegas' strip. And what a place to actually win and celebrate as well your world title is Las Vegas. That's a very good setting to have it in, for sure. So, yeah, it's very likely that Verstappen is going to win the World Championship. It's pretty much a done deal. And as long as he finishes ahead of Lando Norris, then he will be champion in Las Vegas. But if Lando Norris finishes ahead with a point swing of 3 or more, because again, he can't tie with Max Verstappen. Even if Lando Norris wins all remaining 3 rounds, he still won't have as many wins as what Max Verstappen does. He would have the same problem that Charles Leclerc would in that scenario. So yeah, just one going over the different permutations there, guys. Like, the championship battle realistically is over when it comes to the drivers. The constructors is another thing entirely. That is a very close battle between McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull, and I can't wait to see how that plays out. There is a lot to play for, so this is a long way from a dead rubber. There is no accusations of that, because all 3 of those teams will be gunning to try and get the win and win the Constructors' crown. But what do you think is going to happen, guys? Who's going to win the Las Vegas Grand Prix this weekend? Let us know in the comments below. And of course, keep it subscribed to the F1Chronicle.com to see much more content on the world of Formula 1 just like this. Like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell as well, and we'll see you very soon, guys. Have a good one.